Hello, this is Pastor Scott Cruz with the Deeper Rock, and we are on I believe it's the third part of a 4-part series, My Money Pledge for the Rock. And here it is again, in case you missed it. Number 1, I will not manipulate you to get you to give. Number 2, I will not lead where I will not go. And number 3, I will not rob you of God's best for your life by not talking about finances in church because it's in His Word. And the second pledge concerning money, I will not lead where I will not go. I know, and I have seen pastors and evangelists preach on giving and not give themselves. And those guys struggle, and they're not in ministry today, and it's just hard. Or they don't preach on it, and they don't give, but then they don't talk about giving because they feel like hypocrites because they can't talk about something they themselves are not doing. Their finances, as a result, are a mess, and God isn't blessing that area of their lives like He wants to because they're not, they're not going where they're leading. I wish I was perfect. I'm not. I wish it'd be easy to preach the truth if I could guarantee not to be a hypocrite and could say I got all this stuff, figured out. I put myself on a budget and then forgotten to look at it and then gotten sloppy with my finances and paid the price for it. It's about progress, not perfection. Therefore, I go back again and again and we look at our budget, we try to do better. It's just like a diet. You get sloppy, you get fat. And that's what happens with my finances. And so you go back to it again and again and again. And it's worth doing and it's worth striving for because it takes work. And we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our families, we owe it to our God to have the healthiest finances that we possibly can. And there are a couple of things in my life that I've done that has really protected me from some of the shortcomings that I've had. You can't lead where you won't go, and you can't lead if you don't tell anybody where you went. And now, if you've never heard that before, I think I made it up. And so let me know if you've ever heard that anyplace else. And if not, write it down and put my name next to it because I think I made it up. You can't lead where you don't go, but you also can't lead if you don't tell anybody where you went. So I'm going to be a little bit transparent with you at risk of, being transparent to let you know. So, number 1, my wife and I have always been savers. When we first got our very first paycheck, I would get a 3% raise. I would look in the window of the bookkeeper and say, hey, could you bump up my retirement by a percentage? And I would do that. Every time there would be a raise, I would take a piece of it, either 1 or 2% of that raise, depending on how big the raise was. And most people get a 2% raise. And I was early in my career, so there were a couple of bigger jumps, when they realized that, okay, you're not just a kid anymore. We're going to, start paying you a more professional wage. That happened during that time, and I was there. So by the time I'd been there 8 years, between the percentage that the church gave already, the matching, plus my upping it by a percentage, it was like almost 25% of my income starting at 22 years old was going into my retirement account. And so, and long story short, that has been an awesome thing, and it's been something that God did that we used His principles early on that's protected us. The second thing that I've always done is I've always tithed. From the very first painting job that I had when I was 13 years old, I gave to God. At Little Caesars Pizza, when I was 15, I think I was, when I started Little Caesars Pizza, I tithed. At the Fargo Country Club, washing dishes and waitering, all the way through, I've always tithed. And you want to hear something really cool? My wife, half a world away in Norway, her first junior high job, you know what she did? She tithed. My wife and I have never made money, at least not that I know of. I might have forgotten at some point or whatever, but as far as I can tell, we have never made any money without tithing on it. And so God has protected us, and we've been blessed as a result. We're very, very blessed, and we believe in it. So if you can't lead where you won't go, and so what? Do I not tell people to tithe because I think they might think that my motives are wrong? No, I'm gonna do it. Because tithing it's a part of my life, and it always has been, and it works. Number 3 is to give more than tithe. About 2 years ago, my wife and I were at a general council, and Rick Warren was speaking. He wrote The Purpose-Driven Life, and he shares the story that before he wrote The Purpose-Driven Life, that he and his wife would give another percentage every year that they had an increase. Now, I had done that with my savings. Remember, I'd stick my head in the window and tell the bookkeeper, bump it up 1%, bump it up 2%. I never saw the money. It never became part of my cash flow, and so I never missed the money because it was just a percentage of the increase. And it got up to 25% over time. It had never occurred to me to do that with my finances, but Rick Warren said that's exactly what he and his wife had done from the time that he was a young pastor, like I was at 22 years old, but he was smarter than me. He didn't just do it with his savings. He did it with what he gave God. My wife and I were so challenged. We looked at each other in that meeting, and we decided, okay, God, we're going to do this. And you know what happened? Right away, in that period of time, is we both got raises at that point. Long story short, I'm not going to tell it here, but we both, and one of them was a substantial more amount of money. Now, we were feeling like we needed to play catch up a little bit because we had always just tithed, and so we decided to take it, and we put pretty much all of the increase into our giving. And we did that, and God blessed us. So last year, it was 17% of our income that we gave last year. You can't lead where you won't go. That's where we went. I believe in it, and God is so good, and He's blessed me so much. Hey, may the Lord richly bless you, and I hope to see you in church on Sunday.